When Valve, one of the biggest game companies in the world, decides to actually make a game, it usually marks a significant leap in game technology, and their new Counter-Strike is continuing that trend. I just got access to the new Counter-Strike 2 beta, and it's honestly a jaw-dropping upgrade from CSGO in pretty much every way. Today, I want to show you a deeper look into what makes Counter-Strike 2 the new benchmark for competitive first-person shooters. Now, the most obvious upgrade from CSGO to CS2 is the visuals. Traditionally, the developers of competitive esports titles make serious compromises to visual fidelity to ensure good performance and readability. If you compare the textures, lighting, and models of CSGO to other esports games like Valorant or Rainbow Six Siege, though, CS2 has this extra level of fidelity that's subtle yet incredibly impressive. Every map has at least one area where the lighting, textures, models, and supporting assets all come together to make something that just stops you in your tracks and demands you to take a closer look. This bit of water on Ancient is just incredible. It has a shader on the surface that makes the water look like it has a thin film of algae on it, and it reacts to you walking through it, shooting it, and other things. And there's tons of areas like this in pretty much every map. Valve clearly didn't have to do all of this extra detail work. Most Counter-Strike players are going to ignore the fine details on these maps and focus on learning the angles and setups. But Valve going the extra mile and packing in this level of detail shows an incredible pride in their game and the knowledge that people are going to be playing this game over and over again for years to come. Now, of course, realism in video games can age poorly. What looks impressive today could look incredibly outdated 5 years from now even. But Valve has reeled themselves in pretty well. They've pursued more artistic realism as opposed to photorealism. Plus, they struck a really cool balance of, rather than using real-time ray tracing, which would kill your FPS, they're baking it in more realistic ways using their engine tools so that you get that RTX on effect without it actually tanking your frame rate. And the result is the best looking version of Counter-Strike that you've ever seen that will hopefully age gracefully while still running at an insane FPS on most modern hardware. Counter-Strike can't be one of those games that launches with mediocre performance and is relying on future hardware to do well. It has to run incredible right now. Now, of course, visual changes are one thing, but mechanical changes can have a huge impact on the gameplay. And for the entirety of Counter-Strike's history, a deployed smoke grenade essentially had, well, no counter to it. You either waited for the smoke to clear or risked pushing through it. But with Counter-Strike 2, smoke grenades are now rendered as voxel-based volumetric clouds that deform from gunfire or grenades. A counter-terrorist smoke setup designed to delay a terrorist push can be thwarted with a grenade, and honestly, it looks awesome. So much about the functional utility of smoke grenades is different now, and it seems like it should be an improvement and expand the tactic. Smokes still serve the same utility, but they're just more dynamic and allow for new strategies to counter them or even exploit them. And what I'm finding so cool about Counter-Strike 2 is that every improvement is meticulously designed around fixing or improving the game, not reinventing it. The map refreshes don't just make the game more realistic or brighter, they actually improve player visibility. Another example is the new loadout system can now be used as a tutorial to help new players learn Counter-Strike 2's weapons, while also giving veteran players the ability to refine their choices to the essentials. By restricting players to 15 total weapons, new players can learn how the guns handle in chunks rather than grappling with all of them at once, and it also gives them time to just kind of learn the basics of the game's economy. The audio in Counter-Strike 2 is also a huge improvement, featuring much more accurate 3D positional sound and higher fidelity effects. Valve implemented head-related transfer function, aka binaural audio, in Counter-Strike Go several years ago. The result was a much more accurate and immersive 3D audio experience. However, since then, they improved the 3D audio for their VR titles substantially, and they've clearly learned a lot about implementing advanced audio systems. The positional audio is represented much more accurately in Counter-Strike 2 than in Counter-Strike Go. Plus, Counter-Strike 2's engine can support more complex materials, so the developers can have a wider variety of surfaces to choose from when making a map, giving each area a more unique sound. Now, Valve have also done the existing community a huge solid by including all of Counter-Strike Go's existing crafting cosmetics in Counter-Strike 2. Players have spent years earning their weapon skins in Counter-Strike Go. They retain a huge amount of value on third-party sites where they're auctioned off or gambled away, and not having that transfer over to Counter-Strike 2 seems like something that would just break the game's community entirely. So Valve have done their due diligence here, and everything is transferring over, which is awesome. Now, of course, Counter-Strike 2 is running on the Source 2 engine, and this is actually a big deal for making maps. Community map designers are responsible for most of Counter-Strike's most iconic maps, like Dust 2, Mirage, Inferno, Nuke, Train, and more. Source 2's map editor is a massive upgrade from the old one, and it means the community behind Counter-Strike's maps can make even better content. CS2 is also implementing new ways to play. Their new Premier mode features seasons and leaderboards. This gives new players a good entry point for competitive play and a persistent challenge to vets. Counter-Strike's matchmaking system has been mostly choosing between a totally casual experience or a competitive one that quickly plateaus. Once you reach your best rank in Counter-Strike Go, you're basically stuck at that rank forever unless you massively improve your play. Counter-Strike 2's Premier mode will effectively reset your rank every season, giving you something new to shoot for. Valve have also implemented map-based ranks so you can actually see what maps you play well on and try and improve on the ones that you're not so great at. Of course, the Counter-Strike 2 beta isn't without its problems. The top concerns right now are anti-cheat and server performance. Valve have been updating and refining their anti-cheat tools for years, and these days it's a combination of machine learning, manual review, and player reporting. Unfortunately though, making a new game means that there's going to be new exploits and their tools are going to have to be updated for them. Cheating has always been a problem for Counter-Strike, but it's particularly bad right now in Counter-Strike 2 since it's an open beta. Hopefully Valve can collect the data that they need to update the game's anti-cheat to ensure a better experience before the official launch. Also, many high-level players are concerned that Counter-Strike 2 doesn't use a 128-tick server system. In a nutshell, Counter-Strike Go and Counter-Strike 2 servers both run at a maximum of 64 updates or ticks per second. However, for several years, third-party sites like Faceit have provided 128-tick servers that offer more accurate experiences since they update, well, twice as often. But Counter-Strike 2 uses a different system Valve calls sub-tick. Basically, if you perform an action in the game, that action is sent to the server in real time and isn't actually based on the frames, or rather the next tick to be registered. The community has already shown off how this works. So in Counter-Strike 2, when you click, the gun fires and the shot is immediately registered by the server. This is a big improvement, and it likely means that 128 tick rates is less necessary for a highly competitive experience. However, one of the issues right now with CS2 is how it compensates for different pings between players, aka lag compensation. Issues like dying around corners is worse in Counter-Strike 2 than it was in Counter-Strike Go. And that's the sort of thing that tick rate alone can't totally fix. Only time will tell if increasing the official server tick rate to 128 is going to be necessary. But given just how quick and extensive Valve's reaction to community concerns with Counter-Strike 2 has been, it's a safe bet that they'll fix it to at least an acceptable degree. Now, personally, I think Counter-Strike 2 is such an impressive upgrade. And not just because it understands the core values of Counter-Strike, but because it's also improving that. Most of Valve's history with these games has just been refining them to iron out the rough edges that impact match outcomes. Improving Counter-Strike is a tough balancing act that Valve have spent 20 years practicing. And ultimately, it seems like that practice is paying off, and Counter-Strike 2 seems positioned to become, well, probably the best competitive FPS title for the next 10 years or so. Let me know in the comments if you guys have gotten access to the Counter-Strike 2 beta and what you think about it. I'm thoroughly impressed with this. It's an incredibly impressive and refined experience, and I can't wait to see how it plays once it hits mainstream. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.